What's going on, man?
Nice to see you.
You too. How's everything?
Good. Hold on, I'm trying to make this full screen. I've never used Skype, by the way.
That's cool.
Whatever. How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing great.
Cool. What kind of things have you been working on exactly the last few days?
Well, to be honest, a lot of it has been this. I've been like talking to people, and like, so then I'm gonna have to start kind of doing a little bit of like editing and just checking things out. Not much, 'cause I'm letting the conversations just ride. So anyway, so one thing that's been cool is just like talking with people. You know what I'm saying? Like just keeping social that way. But so outside of that, been working, not necessarily working on music right now, but kind of like tidying some things up that are going to be released, or at least we're planning on releasing in the spring. So, there's just like little things like sending things off to mastering. There's some other things that I need to send. Actually, there's some stuff I need to mix for like an album. I need to mix, but there's a couple of things that we still need to be tracked for the album, just like minor overdub things. So that, and then what else, man? Yes, I mean, just stuff like that. Thinking like artwork, kind of vibes for different things. So the deal, man.
Yeah. No, it's definitely there's so much more work than just playing the actual songs.
Oh, that's like the easy part, right? I mean, that's
yeah, exactly.
It's like that takes like relatively, that takes like no time. It's like everything after that, So the other thing is, for a while I kind of checked out of social media. I just kind of, I don't remember what why I did, but I just kind of got burned out. So one day, I spent a couple of days purging my Instagram. So I had thousands of posts, thousands of, and I was just like, it was like, so I went down to like 3 posts, you know what I mean? Like, so that takes time just doing that, but it felt really good. I guess that, where it started really was, it's probably been a couple of years now, but Kim hit me the Marie Kondo. I don't know if you heard of her.
Yeah,
exactly. So we really got into that, so at the house, so I went crazy, man. Like, just did the whole thing, like took all my clothes out of like every drawer and closet and just threw it all on the bed. Just got rid of stuff. Just basically like simplifying things and just getting rid of things and items that never used, and what I realized is what I was feeling was like a sense of just getting rid of energy that I didn't need around. You know what I mean? Like things that were or items that would kind of take my energy away from where they really needed to be. That energy needed to be directed. Yeah. Because, you just like quickly you would think about something, or you would see an item in the house or see something, and you're just like, So then we redid the studio, which was right the day after Christmas, which was a 3-week project. And it was just an amazing experience. Again, getting everything in the studio has a purpose. First off, everything works, Good. And then, so the funny thing is, we took everything out of the studio. It was like a blank slate, painted, did the walls, and then Kim I told her to make the studio a place where you would want to hang out.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And I had nothing, like, so she spent like a few weeks designing, getting ideas together, doing the whole thing. And then I was just a worker bee, like send me off in a direction, give me a task. So we did all that, and it's beautiful. So anyway, so towards the end of the project, she would bring over bins of I had like bins of cables and just all this kind of stuff. And she was like, all right, go through it. So I'd go through it, and I was like, nope, don't need that. It's gone, So every cable works. Everything has a purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like a purpose, a place, and a purpose. So anyway, so that's kind of going back to that. Getting rid. I had stuff in the studio. I was finding like stuff, man, that I've had for 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, I had bins full of stuff that, and the deal, man, is you always feel like you need to hold on to things because you may need it someday or whatever. Like, this
very guilty of that.
After, exactly, man. So I've just gotten rid of that guilt. It's like, cool, man. This served its purpose at some point. You know what I mean? And move on. So then I kind of during that time period is kind of when I checked out of like social media, like before Christmas, and then so probably for a couple of months I was just gone. And a friend, I had someone in the studio who was saying that he recently purged his Instagram because he felt like he was kind of talking about the energy. He was like, he had posts from however years ago, that didn't necessarily represent him as an artist or just his, beliefs right now or whatever you want, however you want, take that. So I did the same thing again, man. It was just such a freeing. It just like free. It's just like all these. I was like looking at all these old photos and like you have like posts from like shows and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, man, I don't need this. I just don't need it in my energy field. So I just got rid of that. And so that's kind of like the trip. So now, what I'm trying to say is now with this, I've kind of gotten back into social media because having to post things and this and that, and it's just amazing after not having, and I don't spend much time on it, but it is amazing how much time you can spend just posting things and preparing those posts, designing the graphics for those posts, like all these steps. It's like, man, where did the day go? It's crazy. It's crazy. Yes. So basically I'm just trying to find a nice balance of, staying busy, staying creative, but also finding time just to relax, get my mind off of music and all that's related to it. So been good.
Nice.
So there you go. That's what's been going on over here.
Right on. No, I think it's cool because now you've arrived at the kicking it with Al thing, which I think is a great idea because I've basically just only been hanging out with my girlfriend and cat. Yeah. So you're like the first person I'm truly having a conversation with, and I feel like Tom Hanks in Castaway right now. Yeah. But no, this is cool. And I appreciate it. I like where your head's at with that because it seems I feel like I'm in a slightly similar headspace. Of seeing what's actually valuable and or what's meaningful right now. It definitely makes you reassess and take stock in what you have and see if there's superfluous things around and whatnot. So it's been a good recharge, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, man. Well, it's funny. So my wife and I, Kim and I been walking a lot. We've been walking 10 miles a day because we're in the area we live. We can do that. Even under normal circumstances, before all this, we could walk 6 to 10 miles a day and basically run into nobody. We're just that's the.
It's not weird.
No, I love it. That's why we're here. It's kind of nice.
Oh, well, I guess I mean for me it's weird. I live downtown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so I'm in a similar situation where I can take a walk and there's nobody. And it's like, this is very surreal.
Yeah, man.
But it sounds like you're in a little bit more of a secluded area anyway, so you're probably not feeling it the same way I'm feeling it.
Right. I mean, it's kind of normal. But the funny thing is, so we were on one of our walks, we were talking about, I was saying, like, it's going to be interesting, like, after this kind of this whole thing blows over, however you want to say it, it's going to be interesting to see how people, because the world, we're all kind of separated now, we're all kind of isolated from each other, but a lot of things are, a lot of people are told to work from home. Okay. So I was talking about, well, it's going to be interesting when people realize that they're still being productive, at home. It's going to be like, oh, do I really need to go to an office then? Like, or does that office as a whole actually need to exist at all? I mean, we've been, people have been conditioned, and this, I guess it's easy for me to say because I've been playing music my entire life. I haven't worked in an office, but just as an observer, it's just gonna, I wonder if people are gonna, kind of reassess like the needs of having to be in this kind of workplace environment when, like, man, I just spent however many weeks it's going to end up being at home working. The business is still, functioning. It's, at some capacity. So today we were on a walk and this woman walked past us on the other side of the road and she said, say, hey, morning, whatever. And it's like, oh, hey, she says, and we didn't recognize her. And this is we know a lot of people in our neighborhood, but she's like, oh, this is great. I'm so much more productive, working at home, and then I go for a walk and whatever, so I'm like, there you go. That's the, perfect example. I don't know who this woman is because most of the time, Kim and I are lucky enough, we work from home, so we can go out for a walk any time of the day when we want, whatever. So we're definitely seeing people who we never see because they're off in the office. You know what I'm saying? So, there's definitely going to be a shift, I think, and I think it's all going to be positive.
Yeah, I can see that too. My girlfriend does work at an office. And so, for this last week or so, she's been working home and I get to see her like actually do what she does every day. Cause I never really knew, and I'd always hear about it, later, but now, I'm understanding her a lot more. B, a lot of respect for what she does, and C, like, it's definitely interesting watching the landscape of how work is conducted change. And I think a lot of people at where she works were under the impression that it couldn't be done at home, but like, hey, it's happening. And I think it's definitely, it's interesting seeing kind of like these attitudes shift a little bit, but now it's kind of cool. Now I got like a buddy here, get to see way more of her, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. So what have you been doing with your time, man? Like, what's up? What's up on the music front?
You know what? I'm really happy to say this finally for the first time in like years when I decided to actually do it. But I'm actually like starting to write music for myself now, like more than normal, because usually my time is really taken up by writing for a specific project that I'm in, or for a certain artist or whatever, or just doing what the phase that I think you said you're kind of in, which is like sort of the extracurricular stuff of like designing and like scheduling and just planning and getting all your shit together.
Yeah.
I'm finally at the mode where I just picked up a beautiful tape machine about a month ago, and so I'm like, I have new tape for it, and I'm just creating all these crazy sounds on it, and so it's been inspiring and whatnot. So I'm finally able to like write some stuff and kind of just see where am I at personally with like what's my style of music right now, because man, it changes so often. But I've been just recording all the time. I've been spending my days just tracking and playing all my instruments and just having fun and playing bass lines for other people too. Like I've had some bass line work and whatnot, but I wasn't going to have the opportunity to do all this. I was going to be on tour all month long. And so now the tour got canceled, and it's been wild. It was going to be an interesting tour too. I got hired by the group called the Monophonics to play bass for them on their record release tour this month. And so the album just came out, right? And I was in the Bay Area just like rehearsing with the guys, and then it was just like phone call after phone call of just like, this show got canceled. This show got canceled. And I'm just like, okay, so I should probably fly back then. Like, I got to go home now. And so now it's like, turn a problem into an opportunity. Now I'm here writing a lot. I've been transcribing a lot of songs that I've always wanted to learn, and just now I'm recording. I have one of those, like, do you remember the Tascam 388 machine? Yeah, I'm sure you do. I got one for a steal last month, and now it's been like my baby. So cool. I'm very excited to mess around on it and do some weird stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
awesome.
Really, in a nutshell, everything that has happened in like the last like 3 weeks since this all began. You know, it's pretty much just been that, just hanging out, drinking a crap ton of coffee, and like more than normal, like way more coffee than normal. I'm definitely like jittery all the time.
Hey man, make sure you check the tempos of those tunes, man. Check the tempos, make sure.
Yeah.
So check this out, man. So years ago when we were recording what ended up being Turn It Out. So the original version of Turn It Out. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, the original version of Turn It Out was actually going to be one just in the studio. You know what I'm saying? Because like Turn It Out ended up being some live cuts and just things from different places, you know? So, and I think actually one song, Rudy's Way, was the only song that was made it on the album from the actual studio session. So the thing is, Neil, this dude, he got like on a coffee kick on that session, right? So Neil, he was like drinking tons of coffee, and like in between takes, he was like doing push-ups, you know, like at the organ. So he'd do like, you know, like a couple hundred push-ups, and then drinking coffee, and then he was counting off the tunes, you know. So we were running through these tunes. Man, we listened back, we were like, yo, man, the songs were so fast. Like, they were so fast. So we literally, like, after that, we like, okay, well, we can't, we scrapped a bunch of the songs, you know, and then we ended up, like, kind of, like, piecing it together with, like, you know, so, and that's what ended up being the album. So check your tempos, man.
Wait, so are you saying that the tempo that you used, the coffee tempo, we'll put it, for Rudy's Way is the one that's on the record?
That is, yeah.
Nice.
So that's the only song that, so maybe he was out of coffee or something on that tune or something.
Yeah. It's funny. I like that tune. It's a good tune. Yeah. Because that's weird, because it modulates from B to F, which is, you know, tritone. So it's like, it's definitely makes your ears, you know, prick up a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a straight up Neil tune right there, man. That's, you know, yeah.
You know what's a coffee album? Earth, Wind and Fire's Live in Rio.
Oh, dude.
Dude, everything is way fast, like coffee fast, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Dude, that album is so... I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, yo, what is going on, man?
How are those horn players doing that?
Dude, well, live and real.
Live and real.
Live and real.
It must be Brazilian coffee, right?
Yeah, exactly. The special blend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very special blend.
Yeah, it's a killing album though. I mean, it's so killing, but it's like, man, I couldn't even imagine being a horn player having to rock that stuff.
Woo. Yeah, that was honestly my first thought when I heard it the first time. I was like, these guys must have collapsed after that show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no doubt. Oh, yeah, that's a really good one, man. Yeah, I haven't actually heard that in years, but yeah, that's a favorite for sure. So, yeah, you gotta be careful with the coffee, man. Gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, whatever, but
I feel like I'm always in a situation when I'm like recording or at least doing pre-production is that we always rehearse for the most part, because a lot of the music that I play isn't like so much of a live kind of sound, so to speak, sometimes. So it's like we rehearse with a metronome. So there's weeks of just like, oh, drop it at 1 BPM or whatever. It's very like highly calculated. But even with that, there was still one song on the last record that we put out we're just like, we know every time we play it live, we're just like, way slower, everybody. Like, let's really drop it down, because we like really regret recording it so fast.
Yeah. Actually, I just had a band in, and they were working on a tune on a single, and they realized afterwards, well, kind of during, like after everything, after tracking, then we got to vocals. He was like, man, it was, I can't remember if it was recorded. I think they recorded it a little slower than they had been playing live, but they were digging it, so sent it off to mastering, and then they asked the mastering engineer to speed it up, you know what I mean? And I heard it, and they did a great job. I don't know if he did it like in Ableton, or I don't know how he did it, but there were no weird artifacts in the same key. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, damn, that's pretty. I mean, I know there's ways to do it, but the funny thing is, it was just 2 BPM. I mean, like, like you would think, but man, 2 BPM.
It matters. It can matter.
Yeah. And it was like, it almost like, and I checked the key, I just wanted to make sure, but the thing is, just those 2 BPM made the tune feel brighter, like, as what I'm saying,
sure.
Just like, but it was in the same key, nothing had modulated, nothing changed, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I mean, whatever, man. Cats
that's interesting.
Been doing that for years, like, I mean, it was really easy on tape, like, you just like, but back in the day, well, exactly, that was like the thing. It's like, oh, you want to speed it up, they'd speed it up, but the pitch would, was going with it, so that was always the funny thing. I remember when I was like younger, trying to like learn tunes, and you're like tuning your guitar all crazy. You're like, man, what is going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're checking your turntable, you're checking everything, and it's like, oh yeah, no. And then years later, he's like, oh yeah, we just, you learn that they just, sped the tune up because it wasn't, it wasn't cut at the right tempo or whatever. It's like, okay, cool,
I've also heard of people speeding the song up, usually like on tape, speeding it up just a little bit to have the background vocal harmonies like seal better. Like, when that happens, like them singing together, like the harmonies actually sound better when there's like, it's pitch adjusted afterwards. Like, they'll speed it up the tiniest bit, and then everything just kind of like glues together.
Wow. Yeah, I never heard that one before. I'm trying to.
It was like an old reggae documentary or something from like Studio One of like how they would approach the background singers, and they just like zoop, and then that was like the secret ingredient to making the background vocals sound the way that they do. Something like that. I'll have to fact check that one, but
no, that's...
the song "Hit It and Quit It." I remember. Here's a story that involves Chris Junker, actually.
Okay.
Back when he was living on the West Coast, we would I don't know why we did this, but we'd have him drive up to Reno, which is like a 5-hour drive, to play like one gig with us.
Yeah.
And he rolls with his organ.
Yeah, exactly.
And so so many fun Chris anecdotes, but he was talking about learning "Hit It and Quit It," right?
Yeah.
And he was just like, because he practices on, or he was practicing on, like, a baby grand at his house in Santa Cruz, which is, tuned a certain way. And he was having a really hard time learning what was going on, because "Hit It and Quit It" is like a semitone higher. Yeah, and he's just like, man, this is brutal, dude. And like, it's like trying to learn "Hit It and Quit It," and like, he's like, I can't like tune my piano. So, that's definitely a tune that definitely, I think they did speed that up with like a pitch wheel or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they must have.
Oh yeah, dude. Of course, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's that's the stuff that you just had to, those were the tools you had to use. It's like now, like now that stuff is easy. Although, yeah, like I said, man, this cut, like, I heard no artifacts, no like weird, digital, and it was just like the tune was just quicker. I was like, man, that's really dope. I've used like Ableton in the past, so I understand how it works, but it's just kind of really cool to hear it, and
that's amazing. Like that, because I would always assume that the pitch would change if they sped it up, but that is some next level technology I've not even heard of.
Yeah, dude, it's
pretty interesting.
It's pretty awesome. So, kind of, I guess, like I'm still. I use like computers and all that, whatever. But my process is still old school. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't like the I. As you know, you have a 388. That's like 8 tracks. So like you have to really be thoughtful in terms of your, like, all the way back to the writing the song, or at least after writing song, once you get into the production of it, like the parts, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I got 8 tracks. So, or you can get creative with those 8 tracks, as like you can bounce things down or whatever. But the whole time you have to really be making decisions, And that's like the one thing I don't like. I don't know. Like in the digital realm, it's like, there's just like an unlimited number of tracks and unlimited everything. Like there's unlimited number of plugins you can put on, so all this kind of stuff. But it's like it doesn't make. Very rarely do people make decisions, though. Like in terms of, the song, the production, the arrangement. It's like, oh, we could just do it later, or, we can figure it out later, or we'll make it sound like this later, or, it's like everything's kind of like later. So,
yeah, So I think that we're probably coming from the same area. It's like whenever I'm about to approach a song or a project in general, I'm always like thinking like, what is end goal of like the production value, the sound, the instruments, the parts. Like, and from what I've learned about, being like a mixing engineer and like trying to produce records for people and myself, it's like, if you don't know that stuff when you're doing anything, you're going to have a hard time figuring out what you're even doing in general towards the end too. Like, I think I actually, I like the process. Like Jack White he said similar things. He likes that limitation.
Yeah.
388 is so cool because like I can really make those hard decisions early on and really value the parts and the arrangement, everything so much more. And then taking it, dumping it into my DAW, and then just kind of putting a little shine on top and
man.
Be surprised. Like most people, I know you, but I think most people would be surprised that like having those limitations is almost like a way better option than having like a 50 track record that of like a funk band or something like that, you know?
Dude, look, man, one time I got a record from a band. It was like a pop album. And this one song had 140 or close to 200 tracks. So I was just mixing the record.
What were they doing? What were all the tracks?
It was so crazy, man. Like, so you know, the way it was laid out, like you could see that they were leaving a lot of it, I guess, up to me to you know, there was so many, like, all these crazy background vocals, and then everything was like triple or quadruple mic'd, you know what I mean? And like, I mean, dude, there's so much, and so I just started stripping things away. You know what I mean? I was just like, guitar. I was like, if I saw 57, cool, I'm keeping that. I don't care what else. You know what I mean? It was just like, you know, all these, you know, because I would listen to it, I'm like, all right, they all sound cool, but whatever. I'm going to go with the 57. So it's just, you know, it was easy for me to visually just see. So I just started stripping things down, you know, and like, and again, with arrangements, man, they had different, it was so many background vocals. It was just incredible, man. And I understand it's a pop record, but it was, and they really dug it in the end, you know, which is cool. That's what you want. But it's like, man, like I guess the thing is like they didn't, no one was producing, you know what I'm saying? Like they had a producer, but it was just like, you could tell that they were just like, oh yeah, let's keep going, the stacking things. And it's like, no one ever said, okay, stop, you know, or like, let's think about this. Does this part actually makes sense in the tune, you know? Like, so,
I can't even imagine what your CPU was going through.
I mean, and this was years ago. This was probably easily. It was over 10. It was probably 2007 or 8. So, man, like, you know, I had to get really creative with, like, you know, because the computer I had back then, it was like it was like the brand new Mac Pro, like when they first came out with that, you know, that new tower. But man, that tune beat that thing up, man. You know what I mean? Like, so definitely had to get creative, you know. But so like when I'm in the studio now, it's been kind of fun, man. So I have like my console, which is actually my IO as well. So it's 32 channels, right? So now, like, you know, like I can record as many tracks as I want to. You know, I could record 200 tracks if I wanted. But the mentality I've been getting into, and obviously it's from my old school, just coming up in the analog realm. It's like, well, I'll record something, and then I have, you know, the rhythm track or whatever, you know, and then maybe we'll start adding some things. But every track, when we're starting to overdub, I'm like, okay, I have an open track there, so I'm going to put it there. I'm going to put that overdub on that track. And basically, I'd say 95 to 98% of the time, I don't go above 32 tracks. You know what I mean? Like, I could, you know, you could like keep recording and kind of like summing them to something or what, you know, whatever. But I'm like, this is going to be my limitation. You know what I'm saying? Like, 32 tracks is a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish I had 32 tracks back in the day, you know? So it's like, so that's kind of how I think. So what it makes you really think about, does this song need this? Or are we just, you know, I mean, it's great to experiment and mess around, of course. You know, if you discover something that works, then all right, let's make it happen. But it really makes you think about what you're trying to do with the song, in the song. You know, I love those. I love the limitations, man. And then in the end, man, I used to feel like I was being lazy by trying to make things easy on myself. You know, like sometimes I'd be like, man, that tune took me like, you know, like maybe an hour or two to mix. like, why? Like, am I just being lazy because I just didn't, it sounds good, but I was kind of going through all like this doubting myself or whatever, or doubting the process. But man, now I'm like, man, whatever like it takes. Now I feel good that mixing shouldn't take, it shouldn't be a battle, because I've done my work in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm like, I want the snare drum to sound like such and such, like whatever. I'm going to focus. I'll do whatever to that snare drum. And I've done some crazy, I'm sure you have too. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you take a photo of it, people are like, oh, what are you doing? Hey, I don't care. It sounds good. You know what I mean? Like, and if you do all that work in the beginning, then like mixing is just like balancing some things, and like you said, shining it up, and having fun with it. So,
yeah, I think, being like goal oriented with producing a record from start to finish, like knowing what this, like taking the song's identity. I always think about songs as like a person. Like, if I feel like I'm creating a person's identity, and people's identity, like they can be complex, but there's also like a simplified version of them, of like how you perceive them kind of right off the bat. And then there's like the complexity of that human. I always like approach a song, or like, not like say a song is being written, I always kind of know like what kind of mixing things I'm going to do in the moment that I'm even writing it, or while we're recording, putting like doing like an interesting snare mic situation, because I know that this song needs that, and that when it comes time to mixing it, I'm also going to be very careful and aware to like get that snare sound. Because, dude, I feel like a lot of people could agree on this, but like the snare sound and the drum sound are like some of the biggest defining factors of what makes a song sound the way it does. You know what I mean? Like,
well, of course,
the drums tell the story a little bit more than, say, like a rhythm guitar track. But I don't know. It's just a theory.
That's that's a sound theory, man. Because if you think about it, and this is kind of a broad statement, but in most music that we're working on and listen to, I guess, what do you hear the most? Like, snare. Like not even in volume, but like in terms of just,
right. No, but consistency. Like,
you hear the snare drum, you hear, like, that's like keeping the beat. You hear it all the time. You know what I mean? It's like,
you gotta love it.
A lot of it. So yeah, it's definitely like really important, man. Like I think to spend time getting it to sound right. And you're right, man. I mean, it's so funny. I mean, like, you have a good track when someone's like, oh man, like, why do, like, that's the funny thing. Why do people always say, like, comment on the snare drum? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not just drummers, just like music. I know you're musicians. I mean, like, there's what's his name, Bruce Swedian, who he recorded it. Yeah. I mean, what's his famous quote? Like, no one's ever bought a album because of the snare drum sound or whatever. So I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. Most people don't. Most people don't care what the snare drum.
It's more subconscious.
Yeah,
exactly. The feeling.
Exactly.
The snare drum really does tell a huge story, because like I always like think of snare drum sounds in terms of generations.
Yeah.
Like a 60s snare drum is different from a 70s, different from the 80s. But it always I always smile when I think of this concept, because I always think of my least favorite era for snare drums, which was the mid to late 90s, where it's like very, like, really tight and pingy. And it's like, I don't know what is, I don't know what was happening in the world that like dictated that snares should sound that way. But it is like, I always like think like, oh, like that dude needs to change his snare sound right now.
I know, dude. I know, man. Oh God, I hear you, man. I think,
and no offense to this band or this drummer, but I feel like it maybe that might be a result of Dave Matthews Band taking over the world?
That might be like, oh, that's interesting. That was definitely a sound. That was a sound.
Yeah, and even if you listen to like modern Dave Matthews Band stuff, I think he's still like kind of conjuring that snare tone a little bit, even though it's fattened up a lot, right? Yeah. Like that's like just the way that our sound is we're kind of coming back to that fat like 70s vibe. Yeah. But like I can still kind of hear that like bing, like that. I don't know if that's like 5K or something, but it's like
I know, dude. Oh man, I hear you, man. The funny thing is, like, I tried to like mess around with that sound, like back, and
sure,
man, I just could not get down with it, man. Couldn't get down with it. It just didn't feel right.
Do you have a secret snare drum technique that you've developed or that you've heard of that you've adopted at any point in your drumming career? Like something really unique. Like everyone's got the wallet on the snare, or like maybe a handkerchief or whatever. But is there any like secret stuff that you've tried out?
I don't know. I mean, so the one thing. So when we were working on, so I have a really good friend of mine who I consider like a mentor in terms of like a lot of things, but in the studio, like he's a fantastic engineer, and he engineered Breakout for us. What was Breakout? Yeah, but anyway, so Kirk Yano is his name, and man, he's like recorded. Man, you just gotta look this cat up, man. Like so much music, from like Public Enemy to Pat Martino, and like, you know what I'm saying, like everything in between. You know what I mean? So, and he's an old school cat. He came up. He was like engineering like in Cleveland, Ohio, back in the '70s. You know what I mean? So he knows like the Ohio players and like all these cats. Yeah. So we were so back in the day, we were in the studio. And he's always talking about like, how they were recording drums in the '70s, And so I was like looking for a certain sound. He came out. He was like, "Oh, we'll just detune the snare drum, Like, so I started detuning. He's like, "No. What are you doing?" He's like, so he took like one lug and literally just detuned all the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, actually, maybe even did the one kind of next to it. So the head was definitely like in that area, like just wobbly, you know what I mean? But the sound, man, it felt really strange,
like the rebound of the stick.
Yeah, it just felt odd, you know what I mean? Like, but I guess so at that point, like I've been recording, I've been like recording for a really long time, but like since I was a teenager. But the one trap that I kind of fell into was, and a lot of people do, is like a lot of people who get into recording, their only exposure to say putting a microphone on something is from being going to a live show. So he's like, so then you and then with that said, when I was younger, like when you go to record, you just set up you're just using what you did on the live on playing live. I never thought about like tuning things differently or whatever. It's just like, it sounded good in the club. Well, so you thought it did, probably didn't, and most times it didn't, but so after that point, Kirk kind of hit me to when you're in the studio, like it's a complete, like, just get out of that live mentality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, I was like, I would play. I mean, I guess I still hit pretty hard in terms of, playing drums live. Man, that it took me a long time to realize that doesn't really work in the studio. I mean, it does. It can, but
depends on the genre too.
True. Of course. But I find for the most part, man, like if the quieter you play,
fatter it sounds, right?
Like the sound, you know, and it's funny, man. Like, you know, I remember like growing up, you know, I'd listen to like say James Brown, for instance. Mm-hmm. You're listening to these James Brown records, and you picture these guys just rage and killing because these guys are so hard. And then all of a sudden you start seeing James Brown videos come out, you know, when, you know, say like the late 90s or two, kind of whenever like videos to start appearing to, you know, the masses. And you're looking at these dudes like Clyde and Jabo, and they're just like barely touching the drums, you know, and you're just like, oh, wow, that's just kind of mind blowing. You know what I mean? Like these dudes. Oh, yeah. You know, so I guess a lot of I feel bad for all the old school sound engineers that I used to like, you know, I used to give them so much shit when I was younger, you know, like I knew better, you know what I mean? Like, I'm playing there. They could, you know, maybe you shouldn't play so loud, you know, or whatever. You're like, oh man, this is my thing, you know? It's like, well, they probably know a little bit more than I do, you know, but whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's so like in terms of like snare stuff, man, it's just like, I mean, I've definitely done I do the bandana thing a lot. You know, I'll put it like maybe like it kind of depends from a quarter way to halfway. Sometimes cover the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I'll put like another snare drum head on top of the snare drum. Yeah, you know, and the dope. And so I'm lucky that, man, I have I have more drum heads in my studio than most stores have. You know, it's kind of ridiculous actually, but the crazy thing is, man, like I'm able to check out different heads, and if you throw like a oil filled head or whatever, like I don't know anything about drum heads really, you know, but they sound wildly different. You know what I mean? When you put like a second head on top of it, you know, upside down, it'll change it's wildly different, man. That always blows my mind, you know. But man, I do whatever it takes to get the sound, you know. So. Oh yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. I my buddy a long time ago was telling me like, because I was doing like a handkerchief, you know, on the snare drum and just kind of either having it folded or draped or whatever. And then I'm sure you've probably done this at some point, but he was like taking the rim off, putting the handkerchief on the snare head, and then reattaching the rim and then tightening it all up. So it was like you couldn't take it out or in or whatnot. And it was incredible how good that sounded. And I haven't done that in a while. Mine's just kind of tied on right now, but like I remember I should do that one day. And then I'm like too scared to like retune my drum head for some reason. So I haven't done it.
Ooh, you know what? I haven't done that, and I'm jacking it next time I go to the studio. Okay. I'm totally doing that. Actually, man, so one time there was a certain sound I really wanted, and I just wasn't getting it. So I turned the snare drum upside down. And I played on the resonance side. And obviously I had to be very careful because those heads are like paper.
Those are delicate.
Oh, they're super delicate, man. Like, but it was the dopest sound, man, because by flipping it over, like the top snare drum mic was like right where it would be, you know, but like the snares are right there. And just I mean, I had to hit it so carefully because I knew I would go right through the head, but it sounded incredible. It was perfect for the tune, you know. I would. It's got to be the right song to do that, you know.
Do you remember what kind of song that was? Like,
yeah, it was a real kind of slow. It was kind of like a just like this real slow kind of the closest what I was trying to go for. You know the tune Sly. It's the last song on the first Herbie Hancock Headhunters album.
Not by name, but I'm sure I've heard it.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard it. It's like the last cut on. There's only 4 songs on the album, but it's the last cut. You know, it's this real slow. Oh no, not Sly. I'm sorry, Vein Melter. Vein Melter. That's the song.
Vein Melter.
Vein Melter. Yeah. Boom. 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 It's like real slow.
I'm gonna check that out.
But anyway, so the tune I was thinking of that with that kind of vibe, just real slow. Boom, 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 boom. So I was just like rolling really like lightly on that snare drum. Man, I gotta dig that tune up, man. I'm gonna find that. It was like a long time ago, but
I want to hear that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I have to find that. I have to find that. I gotta find it. Yeah, I think who played on that? Neil played some keys on that. I think I played bass. Maybe did Neil play bass on that? Yeah, maybe he did. I think I played guitar on it, drums. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, but. Yeah, but man, I'm definitely stealing that. I'm stealing that idea. I'm gonna find some snare drum and just like take it.
All yours.
Yeah, man. Woo.
All yours.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. So what's your drum setup right there, man? I see you got a little.
This is an early '50s Slingerland that I got. It's all original. It's like a 1950. I think it's like the Gene Krupa thing.
You have the muffler. You have the muffler on that, on the circular muffler on there. Yeah, for sure. I take that off. I've been putting a pillow there for lately, but yeah, always like a nice like oyster finish on it. But man, I have like it came with 2 floor toms. And like a bunch of vintage cymbals, vintage Zildjian cymbals. I got it for $500 total, which is like pretty amazing. And like 2 snare drums and like all the like. Look at this stand. Yes. Yeah, dude. Yep. Wow.
This is actually Dan, my drummer. This is his cymbal that there was a crack in it, and we took a saw and sawed out the crack. I don't know if you can see that too well.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, man.
That's fine.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
That's dope. Nice, man. Nice minimal miking on that kit. It looks like.
Yeah. So I've been putting this AEA R84. I've been kind of doing the thing where I'll put it actually more next to the kick under the tom. I'll do that. I'll flip it upside down, and then I just got this thing. This is pretty cool. This is a Japanese mic. This is a Linear 250.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Japan's answer to the SM57, but from the 80s.
Yeah.
And I've been putting that on the snare and just mixing the two. And this thing, I couldn't recommend this enough. This was like $50, and it's like it's got such a huge range, like the pickup, the pattern is, I guess the pattern is good.
Probably like almost like an Omni mic or something.
I don't know the pattern names too well, but just those two right there, like just like that kick under snare vibe, and then the linear going over has been like some of the greatest drum sounds I've gotten out of this room here and this kit. Yeah. But that's what I'm working with, just the 2 mic.
Man,
so it's working.
Yeah, that's dope, man. So that's one thing I've been thinking. Like when I go back to the studio, when I get back to the studio, I'm gonna try and go tomorrow or maybe Saturday. But I'm just gonna like basically start from scratch. You know what I mean? Like just try something different. Because I'm able to like put a bunch of mics up. Sometimes I don't go crazy. Like I definitely don't go crazy. I like minimal miking. But I've definitely like been adding a little bit more here and there. So I think it's time to just kind of break it down and just have some fun with like a couple, 2 or 3 mics, so.
Yeah. I was trying the one mic technique, where you place it very particularly between the kick and snare.
Yeah, that's
been really cool because it sort of really kind of gets the character of the kit in a really nice way. Obviously, I'm in the phase of my life where I'm going for a very, very old sound, but so that one mic thing, or at least, maybe if I had like an Altec, 1567 or whatever, I'd be able to do a little bit more, but just have one channel of drums, like drum bus vibe. Love that. Been working a little bit with that lately. But the one mic thing has been really cool, and then now adding the second one, it's definitely interesting. I'd love to have more mics on my kit, of course, like a tom mic or something, but the sounds are there. It's getting there. So what are you using right now on your kit? What's your normal setup, like, I guess the last like year or so, or is it just always changing?
Well, it's kind of changing. Like, it's kind of funny. So, like, the last Soul Live record we put out, I did one microphone on the kit,
oh, nice. Where'd you put it, by the way? Where was that?
Well, it was kind of it. So it was a large. It's a U77. So large diaphragm condenser. So it was kind of hanging over the kick drum, looking at the snare drum. So, you know what I'm saying? So it was picking up a little, that kind of like what you were describing there, And I was just like, and the thing is like, if you bring it up a little bit, you got like maybe more snare, and bring it down a little bit, you'd get more kick drum. But the problem with but then you would get too much of the bottom snare. So you just had man, moving it like a quarter of an inch is like a completely different sound,
Oh yeah.
So I did that, and then then just like compress the hell out of it too. You know what I'm saying? Like just to bring in more of the kit all around it. And just like some it was just saturated and the sat on it, so it was pretty cool. But like now, I went from that for that record, but like now I have like, two ribbons like overhead. I have like snare top and bottom. I have kick, batter and resonant, toms mic'd up, room mic. It's like.
Wait, but did you say you're miking the batter head of your kick drum? Is that what did you say? Really?
Yeah.
You're not getting any like pedal squeak or anything, or do you oil that up pretty well?
No, I guess no. I haven't been, so no.
Wow. I've never heard of anyone do that, and that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so it's like some I can't remember what mic I have on there. It's like a FET. I don't even remember what I have on it now, but yeah, man, it's like literally, it's like pointed right at the beater. You know what I mean? It's like.
Wow.
It's right up on it, man. And then, and that's right now I have the kit that I've been doing that with is I have like a 68 Ludwig, and I just kind of set it up for one record that I was doing with somebody, but then, it sounded so dope. I just like left it, So
cool.
So the funny thing is, Junker and I are putting out an album pretty soon.
Awesome.
So man, I'll send it to you so you can check it out, man. So that's literally the sound that I have. It sounds, you're gonna dig it, man. You're gonna dig it.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we get off, man, I'll send it to you so you can like kind of check it out, But yeah, so
nice.
I said, man, when I go back to the studio, I think I'm just gonna kind of break things down and kind of check something else out, So.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That's good to do. I think one day maybe if I had enough gear to do that, I'd probably purge a few things, but I'm in the accumulation mode and my girlfriend hates it.
I hear. Yeah, it's the rabbit hole, man. Oh, never ends. Right on, Alex, man. Well, yeah, man, great rapping with you, dude.
Yeah.
Stay safe out there, man, and have fun,
You too, yeah. Be healthy.
Yeah,
Get some
indeed.